Judge news. Oh my goodness. Clarence Thomas slammed. I love slammed. It's the press's favorite word to put into a headline. Slammed. Um, so Clarence Thomas has been facing criticism over his relationship with a GOP megadonor, lavish vacations paid for by Harlan Crow, and he's just been. I think they're bribes. Uh,
Mm.
Thomas, who served on the nation's highest court for more than 30 years, has been accepting luxury trips from a real estate magnate and Republican donor for more than 2 decades without disclosing them. Without disclosing them. I think that's an issue, too. That's what might actually make it illegal. The report revealed that Thomas has regularly taken summer vacations at Crow's private lakeside resort in New York's Adirondacks, private jet, Indonesian vacation with Thomas and his wife. Ginny went on with Crow could have cost more than an estimated $500,000. $500,000 vacation that he didn't pay for. If Thomas had chartered the yacht and plane himself, it would have cost $500,000.
Yeah, it's expensive to charter a yacht and a plane.
Right,
This guy is a billionaire that just happens to own a yacht and a plane.
right. So if he gives
Um,
that to a judge and lets them use these things, it should be considered a gift.
the guidelines that are written specifically for the courts
Uh-huh.
uh, are relatively vague on that, but they did change it this past year
Mm-hmm.
so that the guidelines are updated to not allow this anymore.
Right.
So in the future, or from this point forward, he will have to disclose it. But I think that if anyone actually brings action on this, he has a pretty good shot of not being touched.
Mm,
So now it would be an ethics violation if he failed to disclose it.
it
But
wasn't an ethics violation
previously,
because it
yeah,
wasn't illegal. Uh, ethics aren't. Uh, you can do unethical things that are legal. That doesn't make them ethical. The ethics is supposed to.
well, what I'm talking about is the actual consequences of
So
a
he's
person's behavior,
okay.
right?
So
So there is, I'm saying that for this, there's not going to be any consequences. But if he fails to disclose in the future, there will be because the guidelines have been updated for ethical considerations.
I think if Biden has any balls, he'll move to impeach this guy.
He won't.
I know he won't because he doesn't have any balls. But if he did, he probably not. They're gonna write a sternly worded letter. Nancy Pelosi is gonna complain about it, um, and then he's gonna get away with it.
Yeah, and I
And
mean, it's not like, I mean, we're talking about politicians here.
I
You
know, and
know,
that's
these are all people that they get free rides to places all the time.
uh
Uh,
huh,
they get, you know, lobbyists take them out to places that are very expensive to curry favor.
uh huh.
Um, their husbands and wives, they they get these crazy lucrative jobs out of
Mm-hmm.
nowhere at places like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. I mean, this is something that happens all through
Okay,
our political system.
okay. And I
I
think
don't
it
think it's okay,
does. Okay, I
but
don't
I'm
think
just
it's
saying
okay
that
either.
it I'm saying it happens.
Okay, and is House committee to investigate it?
Mm, probably not.
Probably not. But he did start a giant House committee to find out if a private company gave Hunter Biden $80,000. Because that's important. That's the height of corruption, if you ask the talking heads on Fox News. That is unbelievable, the height of corruption. But their judge, who they agree with, gets millions upon millions, and it's cool. It's fine. It's nothing.
Millions upon millions in terms of the use of a jet
Mm-hmm.
or a trip on a yacht
Mm-hmm.
or staying with somebody at their resort that they own.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are not financial considerations. Those are the estimated value of being able to do that thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like, hey, I've got a yacht and I want to take my buddies out on it. Do my buddies am I giving a financial consideration to them because they didn't have to charter a separate yacht on their own?
Are your buddies judges who
I'm
pass
well,
laws
that's what
that
I'm asking.
you
Is
benefit from?
hold on. What I'm that's what I'm asking is that a financial consideration, number one? And number two, the reason that the guidelines themselves said that personal considerations uh, are not necessary to disclose, like from an individual to an individual,
Mm-hmm.
uh, in in terms of like staying somewhere with them, uh, is the reason that I think you'll end up getting away with it.
Oh, I think he will get away with it. Um,
Because the guidelines did say personal considerations do not have to be disclosed.
right. And
So the fact
he
is, so
abused those rules for 20 years. He flaunted them. He abused them. He got, I'm going to say it, you don't have to agree with me, but saying he got bribes from a Republican person and judged in a Republican way because this Republican person is paying him and giving him lavish gifts that he doesn't have to. They probably changed the rule a year ago because he is so unethical. They see this problem with him. They say, this guy is taking millions from a donor. We need to change the ethics rules because he's going to flaunt them. He's going to bend them. He's going to break them. So yes, it was a year ago that they changed this rule. But could the impetus for changing that rule be the very, very unethical Clarence Thomas?
it's possible.
And that's the way I'm seeing it. That's the way it looks to me. Is when a new situation arises, you have to make legislation about it. We've discussed this in the past. Nobody knows what the hell fuck cryptocurrency is, so we need to pass laws. It just got invented. We need to come up with it. Somebody's seeing this problem, uh, and they are creating an ethics rule for it, which is why he will get away with it. Which is why he will say, "Well, those weren't the rules," and everybody will say, "Yeah, those weren't the rules. They are the rules now," and he will start
Following them?
following them, or get in trouble for not following them, which maybe, but I don't think so. Well, I mean, even if it makes him not take things from this GOP super donor, if this new ethics rule limits the amount of Clarence Thomas's vacations, I think that's great. If it limits what he takes from this GOP super donor, I think that's also great.
Okay. So problem solved.
20 fucking years of illegitimate grift from this fucking guy.
I do wonder, I mean, is there any evidence that he wouldn't have ruled the same way anyway, as he already did?
He,
Like, is there any evidence of him having talked in one way about a particular issue or a ruling, or shown that he has a particular leaning on it, and then going on this guy's super yacht, and then coming back and having a totally different opinion?
I don't know. It remains unclear whether Thomas has violated any law or regulation by accepting such gifts and not disclosing them.
Right, because
They didn't have the rules, right? So
yeah,
has he changed his mind because of this stuff? I don't know. It's impossible to tell, and that's why it's a problem.
I
The
agree.
yeah the the since we don't know what they're talked about while they're on these very expensive vacations, since we don't know, it is impossible to know if he is corrupt. It is impossible to know whether or not he's changing his mind or checking
Right.
with these
Or
people
whether
before he
it's just,
makes a
or
decision.
whether he's just hanging out with a friend on a super yacht.
Which is why you have to avoid it, right? You have to avoid things that look like corruption,
Well, sure,
which is why
but
you have to disclose how many gifts you got.
you did just assert that the reason that he's been making conservative rulings is because he gets bribed by his friend.
He is a conservative, and conservatives are bribing him, and his friends are buying him very nice things. Yes, we can't know whether or not he took bribes and made decisions, or if they're just friends and they're just dating. We don't know whether or not Clarence Thomas is a prostitute who took money to make decisions, or if he's just going on dates with Harlan Crow. They're just best friends, and he's just buying him nice stuff and taking him to really cool places, and has nothing to do with it, and they got nothing to do with politics. I, I don't believe it though, because Harlan Crow is very, very political.
Sure, but it depends on, is he political on matters that have been before the court that Thomas has ruled on, and has Thomas changed any opinion as a result of his friendship with Crow? So we don't know, right? I would say that if Harlan Crow started hanging out with Thomas when, let's say that there was some major ruling that the Supreme Court had when they started hanging out 25 years ago that would impact Crow, then you might say, all right, well, what did he do and when? And then what was the end ruling on it? But if there isn't anything that Crow has in terms of business before the court, then is it just that Crow wants to influence a Supreme Court justice just for the sake of it?
Not to vote Republicanly, to lean to the right. It is a I we all say that the Supreme Court is supposed to be independent, but it is a right and a left on that court, and we know it.
Yeah, sure.
Um, Harlan Crow is a member of the founding committee of the Club for Growth, and served on the board of the Enterprise Institute. American Enterprise Institute. That probably has to do with researches government politics, economics, and social welfare and stuff like that. So he is a political guy, and this political guy is giving millions of dollars of gifts to the highest judge in the land. It's blatant and it's obvious, and I think that it, even if you can't specifically prove, hey, Harlan said X and Clarence Thomas changed his vote to X, it stinks, and the whole thing smells like corruption, and it seems like the highest level of corruption in the highest court in the land. And one political party is going to be upset about it, and one is going to say it didn't exist.
I can agree that even if they're just friends and there is no corruption, it's still unethical. So I'll agree with you on that.
And I think that most people would agree on that. I think that is a sensible thing. That we're not jumping to any conclusions here. That it looks unethical, and I think that right-wing politicians are going to say, "Yeah, it looks unethical," but what are you going to do? Nothing. And I think
Change the ethical rules so
change
that
the
you can't
ethical
do that
rules,
anymore,
which is a
which is
good
what they did.
idea, which is good. I'm glad somebody did that. Does Biden? We mentioned it, but Biden doesn't have the balls to impeach the guy.
I think even if he did, he would just point to the fact that the rule wasn't there before and it is now.
Okay.
So what do you impeach him for? You got to have a rule to impeach somebody for something, right?
Okay.
Like if you break a rule that doesn't exist, then
You can't just
you
abuse
haven't
it
really
for
broken a rule, have you?
being unethical.
Right.
Okay. Um, so literally nothing. It's going to blow over in a week, and we're never going to hear about it again.
Yeah, most likely.
Okay. Cool. These guys say he broke the. It probably won't matter. Clarence Thomas broke the law, and he isn't even close. It probably won't matter. All right.
That was a great sub headline.
It was a good one.
Right after that conversation.
I didn't plan it that way, but it's. I'm happy when these things work out. Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. If you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. This is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.